Can you turn your weak serve into a powerful weapon simply by mastering one key serve power move that has everything to do with how you move your hitting arm and nothing to do with how you use your legs? Look at all these players who managed to turn that weak serve into a real weapon. They all started with that one key serve power move, and now they're all hitting powerful and consistent serves. As tennis players, we're all searching for that feeling of hitting serves with effortless power. That feeling is simply incredible and, quite frankly, addicting. After all, tennis becomes so much easier when you start to win free points off of your serve. Imagine stepping up to the line looking forward to serving instead of stepping up to the line dreading to serve because you're afraid of double faulting. At the same time, why do most tennis players struggle so much with their serve? The primary reason for this is that they don't understand and execute the #1 key serve power move. So what is this power move? We call it the right to left power move because you must move your racket right to left over your head if you want to get into a good racket drop and hit powerful and consistent serves. This is by far the most important thing you need to master if you want to transform your serve into a real weapon. In fact, all the best servers in the world move their racket right to left over their head in this particular manner. Alright, so what exactly does this right to left power move look like in detail, and how can you execute it? Let's have OTI instructor James Ludlow from my coaching team, who by the way has a huge serve, as you can see right now, give you the first details.
You just want to see this look where the tip of the racket starts off pointing to the right side fence, you bend at the elbow, and now it points to the left side fence. Now when this is happening, also pay close attention to, I bend at the elbow, the racket begins the right to left. As the racket now passes my head, my elbow leads, racket goes down and away.
So now that you have a first understanding of what the right to left power move should look like, let me tell you everything we're going to cover in this video. This is an in-depth video covering all aspects of the right to left power move. We're going to cover explanations and drills, and you're not only going to hear from me, but from 3 coaches from the OTI coaching team. Even though we talk about the same right to left concept, of course every coach explains things in a slightly different way and has slightly different drills. This will assure that you really understand the concept and master it with lots of different drills. Of course, we're also going to cover common problems and how you can fix them when it comes to this critical right to left power move. By the way, if we haven't met yet, my name is Florian Meyer and I'm the head coach and founder at onlinetennisinstruction.com. Over the past almost 15 years, my coaching team and I have helped thousands and thousands of players transform weak strokes into powerful weapons. In the process, we help professional players like Mark Zieber, who added 17 miles per hour to his serve in just 2 weeks, and Leonie Kung, who transformed her forehand from a weakness into a real weapon and then rose from around 450 in the world to almost 200 in the world in just 6 months. However, most of the time we help club players like yourself transform weak strokes into real weapons. So let's start with the in-depth explanations and drills for this critical power move.
How do we get more power on our serve? This is something as tennis players that we're all striving for. We want to get a dominant serve. The way you generate power, however, it's all about your ability to generate racket head speed. Now, how do you generate more racket head speed? The way you generate racket head speed is all about how you coil and pre-stretch the muscles before contact. Very important. A good analogy for this, imagine you have an elastic band. When you pull an elastic band to its maximum stretch point, what happens when you release? There's a reaction in the opposite direction. The same applies when you use your body segments throughout the swing on either your ground strokes or your serve. What you want to do is you want to pre-stretch the right muscle groups on your serve and also on your ground strokes. And when you pre-stretch these muscle groups, you store energy in the muscles. And then when that pre-stretch is released, that results in that racket head speed before contact. But the question is, what position is related to this on the serve? The position is what we call the racket drop position. Prior to contact, you'll see every single professional player get into this position here, where from the back angle, you can see how the racket is aligned on the right side of my body. From the side, you can see the elbow is approximately at ear level and it's leading out in front. And also my hand is level with the elbow. Tip of the racket is low in relation to my body. Now, when you get to this position here, you now pre-stretch the front part of the shoulder and chest muscles. And when you pre-stretch these muscles, when the energy is released after contact, there's your racket head speed. But what if there was a simple way to get into this racket drop position? What many players fail to realize, every single top player completes a very specific sequence of movements before the racket drop that really makes it so much easier to get into this all-important power position. And this movement is what we refer as the right to left arm action. Now, you've probably seen videos on this from us where we talk about the right to left, but before we even get into it, just remember that when we speak about the right to left, it's always in relation to the tennis court. So there's 4 different directions your racket can move in. You have the right side, which would be the right side fence. You have the left side, which would be left side fence. In front of you is the net, and behind you is the back fence. So just keep that in mind when we talk about now the right to left arm action. Now, before you even initiate what we call the right to left arm action, you have to get into what we call the half serve position. And this is something you'll see with every top player. What does that look like? It looks something like this, where the tip of the racket, after they release the ball on the ball toss, tip of the racket will point approximately to what would be the right side fence for a right-handed player. Left-handed player, same thing, it's just going to be the left side fence. The elbow is going to be approximately just below shoulder level. The elbow is not going to be too low and it's not going to be too high. It's going to be somewhere just below shoulder level. And I'm going to have a slight bend in my hitting arm. That's the half serve position. Now that we've established this good half serve position, now it's time to initiate what we call this right to left arm action. But what I want you to envision here, I want you to split the right to left up into 2 components. The first component is the right component. The second is the left component. Now, first let's talk about this right component. What happens from this half serve position? What you're going to do from here, you're going to initiate the right to left by bending at the elbow. Watch this movement. See how from the half serve position, I just bend at the elbow and the edge of my racket moves to my head, and I'm now initiating this right to left. A very good analogy for this, imagine that you're saluting like the soldiers do in the army. It's the same movement. If all of you do this right now, see how when you salute, it's coming from the elbow bending. That's really what's initiating this movement. So just envision that when you add your racket to your hand, envision that you're bending and you're saluting. It's the same movement. So in summary, looking from the back angle, you see that from here, I complete the right component by just bending at the elbow. Now, when I'm in this position, I've completed the right component of the right to left. Now it's time to talk about the left component. What's going to happen from here? When the racket is approximately above my head, my body is also going to start to be fully coiled at this point. Now from here, I'm going to begin to drive from the ground. When I begin to drive from the ground, my elbow is going to lead. When my elbow leads, look what happens to my racket head. Where's the tip of my racket now pointing? It's pointing to the left side. And there's your right to left. Look at that again. So from the half serve, I complete the right component by bending at the elbow. Now when the racket is moving over my head, I begin to drive from the ground. The elbow leads. There's the tip of the racket pointing to the left side. And now I just allow the racket to continue down into that racket drop. And that's why the right to left is so important. It allows the racket to move in the right manner, so it facilitates this all-important racket drop position. And that's something, if you look at the pros in super slow motion, you'll see them all complete this right to left action. So now that we know how important this right to left is, how are you going to go out and work on this? The way you work on it, you have to just start with some shadow swings. And what I want you all to try out is do some shadow swings in front of a mirror or a reflection, so you can visibly see what's going on. And just isolate the serve, start in the half serve position, and just go 2 components. Think you salute, then lead. And then just stop in the racket drop position and hold. And again, go to your half serve position. You salute, The salute is related to the right component of the right to left. And then when you lead, that's the left component. So salute, lead. And there's the racket drop. And just do that in front of a mirror or a reflection and repeat it until you're comfortable that you can do it without thinking about it so much. So it's more natural for you. Once you're comfortable, then you can try to incorporate it into the full service swing. But what you have to do at this stage is don't move too quickly throughout the swing. Go slow so you can actually visibly see what's going on. When I'm doing it from a first person perspective, I'm looking to see where the tip of my racket is pointing so I can watch it. I can see where it moves and I can see the racket drop. And I'm very aware of what's going on with my racket head. And just do that a few times within the shadow swing. Then once you're comfortable with that, then I would highly encourage you, add some dummy ball tosses. With a dummy ball toss, what you'll do, start in an isolated position again, half serve position. You're not going to hit the ball here. You're just going to dummy the ball toss up so it's more realistic. So it looks like this. You'll just dummy, then you'll bend and lead. Half serve, dummy, bend, lead. And when you're doing this, it's now very important, what I'd encourage you to do, set up a tripod, get a camera and film yourself so you can see what you're doing. Because as soon as you add this dummy ball toss in, many of you will go to something like this. You'll start off well, but then you may look something like this where the tip of the racket may go behind you, or you may start to open up the racket face. These different things will start to creep in. So it's vitally important that you're consciously aware of what you're reinforcing when you're working on new technique. After working with the dummy ball toss, then of course you can start to hit the ball. But again, when you hit the ball, the last thing you want to do is just go to this baseline and try to do it serving into the service box. What I want you all to do instead, go inside the court, start in your isolated position, and before you toss the ball, check your half serve position and ensure for a right-handed player, tip of the racket is pointing to the right side. Left-handed player is pointing to the left. And as you release the ball, all I want you to focus on is bending at the elbow. That's it. And that's going to initiate the right to left. So it looks something like this. Half serve, bend, swing. Show you that again. I double check my position, all looks good. Now I just think of bending at the elbow after I release. Bend and swing. Show you one more. Half serve, bend and swing. And I'm not trying to kill the ball here. I'm going at a speed that allows me to maintain focus on the mechanics.
By the way, if you're not sure if you're executing this right to left power move correctly and want some help in mastering it, we can definitely help you with a personalized analysis of your serve. We currently have a $10 trial available for our OTI digital coach, which is just like having a world-class technique expert in your pocket. So this trial includes a personalized analysis of your serve where we show you step by step how to fix your most important serve problem. It also includes 30 days of access to all of our online video courses. So if you would like to finally figure out what's wrong with your serve and how you can fix it step by step with a proven and science-backed approach, then check out the link in the description below this video or somewhere here inside this video, and we'd love to help you with personalized feedback.
Alright Derek, we're going to review your serve. We're going to first take a look at it in regular speed. Alright, let's go back and take a look at this in slow motion, and I really like how you get into this double bend position. We have a bend in the elbow and wrist. This helps assure that you have a nice loose arm, so definitely like you to try to maintain this position longer. Now if we take a look at the grip, definitely think that you can benefit from spreading the index finger and moving the grip slightly further over to grip 2 or continental. So we'll take a closer look at this. But if you look here, okay, I like how we see your chest at this point, but if you notice where your hitting elbow is, see how it's in front of your body. We definitely want to work on getting this elbow further back where it's more aligned with the shoulders, so it'll really help you or set you up for a better right to left. So if we continue here, you'll see that the arm, the hitting arm, actually lengthens here and the shoulders move in the arm back. And then you start to fan the racket where the strings start facing upwards along with the palm of the hand, and you get into what we call an open racket face. Now, this position puts the shoulder under a lot of undue stress, which from an injury preventive point of view you want to try to avoid. Plus, it makes it very difficult to get into a good racket drop, especially without putting any strain, extra strain on that shoulder. So if you look at the racket drop, this is the lowest part of your swing in relation to your body. Definitely think you can get the racket further down and further to the right, where it's aligned with the right side of your body, so you can put the appropriate muscles on stretch. But in order to get into this position right here, Derek, you really need to work on bending the elbow in the right to left with a closed racket so you can get there without putting any extra strain on your arm. Now from here you want to swing it up to contact. I do like how you're leading with the edge. Now if you make that slight grip change, the edge will be pointing almost straight up, and that will give you more margin for error as you pronate up to contact. Let's go back here and just look at that again. So in summary, we're going to double check the grip, and we're going to work on getting you in a throwing position. We get the weight a little bit to the back foot, and we get the elbow aligned with the shoulders so that we can then bend from the elbow. So if I draw this in for you, this would be your upper arm, this would be your forearm, and then your racket. Now if I draw it in for you, if I draw the tip of the racket, it would move from the right side of your body over your head and to the left side where the strings are angled slightly down. Once you work on that, that will allow you to then get into a deeper racket drop, where you're then able to swing directly up to contact this way. Right, but let's stop right here, and we're going to focus on, number one, getting into a good throwing position for the shoulder and elbow alignment. I'm going to show you a Vic Braden drill to help you with the bending of your elbow, and we're going to work on the right to left and then closing the racket.
So the first thing is we want to try to get you into more of a throwing position here.
Yeah, that I know is the problem.
Yeah.
So everything else will follow, but
Yeah.
I just seem to open up.
Yeah, and you don't quite get there in the beginning. Then we actually, I'll try this. We put a tennis ball right here. Yeah. This is a Vic Braden trick.
Okay.
Cricketers have this issue.
All right.
Like I started playing tennis before I played cricket, so I was a terrible bowler because I would chuck.
Yeah.
A lot of cricketers have the opposite. They bowl and they can't straighten it. So we'll actually, if we put a ball right here, and I'll show you on the court, you want to keep the ball in there. When you hit, the ball should go forward. If you open the arm, it will fall behind you. So it's just one trick to help you with that. Okay. But we want to get in a throwing position ideally, and then the idea is you just bend from the elbow, bring this over your head. But to get you the feeling, we'll use the ball trick, right? But I'm going to have you first start in the throwing position. James is working with Mehmet right now. Yeah. So why don't you start in that, and I'll come do the rest with you. Okay. I feel like you're going to throw. Get this arm up. Because now, look, you get into this position with your elbow. Go back to that starting position again. Okay. So you want to get the weight back. You're in that cylinder, and you're going to look back towards me. There you go. That's it. So we're going to do the same thing.
I know. I feel that I'm doing that. So I just.
Thank you. So now do everything the same. Turn back like you're going to look at me. Weight's back. You're in the cylinder, all right? You're going to turn back to me. Instead of looking at me, though, you're going to look at where you would hit the ball, hit the serve. So see, now I get in that position. So we're just taking the progression. Instead of doing this, we're doing weight back, turn, but now I'm looking in this position. Now you're starting to get in that loaded position with your body. Yes, yes. Much better, much better. Okay, do that one more time. Cylinder. Okay, right. So yeah, so the more you get the weight back, the more you can turn. You want to turn the shoulders independently. Yeah.
Independently.
Yeah,
So.
yeah. So you want to think, just weights back. Just think of turn your shoulders rather than you kind of you're trying to work everything at once. Just think of turning the shoulders. Okay. Just think of that. So turn the shoulders more. Overemphasize it. Weight back, turn. Yes, yes. Now toss. Better. So you got to really turn that to get that back, right?
So here we have Derek doing the elbow the ball drill. And this is a great complement to what he's been working on up until this point. So not only does it help him to bend from the elbow and complete a good right to left, it now takes him to the next stage to getting into a good racket drop, where the racket tip will point all the way down and it's aligned with the right side of the body. Now this is a key power position, but be careful, you never want to force your arm into this position if the mobility does not allow it. But in this drill, Derek's going to start from the half serve position. He's then going to toss the ball, and he's going to then try to have the ball come down onto his elbow like we see here. This allows him to supinate and then lead with the elbow to get into that all-important power position, the racket drop. This is a very small sample of my newest serve progressions and drills, which Derek completed, which you can find out more with my new, soon-to-be-released serve training program. In the program, I will break down the serve step by step, using the drills I have found to be most effective in live clinics with real students. The drills not only get students to produce the correct movements, but also actually feel what it should feel like when done correctly. So let's take a look at a serve comparison between Derek's serve at the beginning on the left and his serve towards the end on the right. And you'll see that Derek has made some very nice improvements to his right to left, and he's preventing his racket from opening. Now if we take a look and compare his serve in two key positions, you'll see on the left how his arm is relatively straight, where he's now getting the arm to bend nicely, where he's bending from the elbow, which is a key component to the right to left. Now if we continue on here, if we look at Derek's racket face, you'll see on the left hand side how his string face is pointing completely upwards. Where on the right hand side, he's now getting the racket to fall more on edge, which is much better for his shoulder as he works to get into a deeper racket drop. Now certainly, Derek could bring his elbow a little further back to get better alignment with his shoulders, but it's important to remember he's thinking of multiple things at this point. Now if we continue and just compare his racket drop, the lowest part of his swing, you can see on the right hand side how he's able to get the racket much lower in relation to his body. You can see his hand is also lower as a result of the correct right to left. Now as Derek swings up to contact, you'll see on the right how he's leading up on edge much longer. That's going to allow him to maximize spin and to gain better control over the serve. If we continue on and look at the two finishes, you'll see on the left hand side how Derek's string face is pointing straight down, where on the right he's now internally rotated from the shoulder sufficiently, which is a major power contributor on the serve. So as you can see, Derek was able to make some very nice improvements to his arm action, and in order to ingrain this new habit, he needs to continue to do a lot of repetitions.
Is your serve lacking power, floating long, or just feeling wrong in general? You might be making one of the most common technical mistakes in tennis, and that is serving with an open racket face. In this video, I'll break down exactly why this happens, how you can avoid it, and give you 3 simple drills to fix it. And drill number 3 might be the weirdest but most effective serve drill to help you fix this open racket face. So stick around to the end of the video where you get to see that drill. But before we go any further into how you can fix this problem, we first need to understand 3 things. 1, how this actually looks, so you get a better understanding what to look for. Number 2, why this happens. Why does the racket face open up? And number 3, why this is so detrimental for your serve. So starting with point number 1, and that is, how does this actually look? What I'm actually going to do, we'll test you, okay? I'll hit 2 serves, and I'm going to do one where I do the technique correctly, and the other where I show you the incorrect. And we can put it up on a split screen, and then you can visibly see, without me even saying anything, the differences in the swing, and then we'll break down a little bit more in detail what it actually looks like. But here are 2 serves, one with the open racket face, one with a closed racket face. Okay, so there was a small split screen to show you the differences between the 2 motions, but let's get into more detail now on how this actually looks. And what you're going to see most commonly, as the racket starts to move over the head throughout the motion, this happens. The hit inside of the strings and the palm do this. It opens up. You can see this from the back angle and also from the side angle. So this is what's often, you hear a lot of coaches, they use the waiter's tray example because it looks like a waiter holding the tray. It's the same thing. The palm and strings open up just like this. And the next time you're in your club, for example, and you're watching leagues or watching matches, look out for it, because you know this is one of the most common errors we see on the serve, this open racket face position. Okay, what we can actually do, I'll show you my serve right now on the screen, right to my side. This was my serve around 11, 12 years ago, so it's quite a long time ago, and this was when I first started playing. And what do you see? You see that very same open racket face position. So I actually started with this very same flaw on my serve. It's a very, very common error. Okay, but now we've got an understanding now on how this actually looks. Now let's dive into the next point, which is going to be all about why this happens. So moving on to point number 2, why does this happen? Why is it so common? Now, in order to get a true understanding of this, we first need to understand essentially how the brain views it. And what I mean by that is, the most logical thing for us to do is point the strings to the ball. Why? We want to make contact with the ball. The best way to get a better understanding of that is if you take a player, imagine your family member or somebody that's never played before, and you tell them, okay, pick up a ball and serve it to the other side of the court, no one is going to pick up this ball and hit the serve like that. Very, very rare. What they're going to do instead is something more like this. They're going to stand very frontal. They're already going to start with the strings pointing to the ball, and then they're going to hit it just like that. Okay? Because this is the most logical thing to do, pointing the strings to the ball. So then if you try to tell that player, they may have started tennis like that 10 years ago. And then to tell that player after 10 years of pointing the strings to the ball that actually instead you want to keep the racket face closed, it goes against all logic. And that's why this is a very, very tough issue to fix. Okay? So that's a first understanding a little bit as to how this brain factors into it, why this happens in the brain, okay, and why it's so common. Now, let's go into some of the main also technical flaws that lead you to this open racket face. The first is the grip. Okay, the grip is very, very important, and if you have an incorrect grip, you're going to make it very difficult for yourself. Now, ideally, we want what we call the continental grip, where the index knuckle and heel pad is resting on bevel number 2. Okay, if you want more information on grips, we do have grips video on our YouTube channel, so you can go watch that. But the common issue we see is players are too far over to a forehand grip. Okay, so over to an Eastern and sometimes even a semi-Western over here. And with a forehand grip, naturally the racket is just going to align open as it goes over the head. So an incorrect grip makes it very, very difficult to fix this open racket face position. Okay, that's point number 1. Point number 2 is how players start the motion. And what I mean by this is, in the starting position, you see a lot of club players like this, where the hands are very high. Now, why is this an issue? The reason this is an issue is from here, the hands gather too much momentum as they go down, and with this momentum, it ends up looking like this, here. And now what do you see behind me? The tip of the racket is now gone back towards where it's pointing to the back fence. But also, if I go with enough momentum, look what happens to my racket face. You can see this from the back angle. I gather momentum, boom. And see how naturally my racket face wants to open up with that momentum. Okay? So when players start high like this, they go too fast in the beginning, and then it leads to this racket face now naturally going to open up. Okay? So how do you fix that? Very simple. You simply just start low with the hands. Okay, you eliminate this part here. You don't need to go up and down. You just start low already. Okay, and then from there you start the motion slow and controlled. This will allow you to keep control of your hitting arm in the beginning portion of the swing. Okay, that's point number 2. Point number 3 is the wrist movement. Again, very common issue, and that is when some players, they do an excellent job of getting to the half serve position. It all looks great up until this point. But then what they do, in order to get the racket moving over the head, instead of bending the elbow to get the racket moving right to left, what players do instead is this. They flex the wrist back and they go like that with the wrist. And as soon as they start activating the wrist like this, where they bring in the knuckles up, number 1, it promotes a lot of tension in the arm, but then also, boom, palmar strings open up. Okay? Now, there are, a multitude of other reasons as to why this racket face could open up, but those are just some of the most common. okay, you want to avoid. So you can film your own serve and check that out and just see, okay, do any of these issues apply to me here, okay? And that then goes into a little bit as to why this happens. And now what we'll go into is why this is such a power killer for the serve. And the reason this is such a power killer is as soon as you do this where the palm and strings open up, you now tighten up the shoulder housing. And whenever your muscles tighten, you lose racket head speed. But not only that, you lose now the ability, when the muscles tighten like this and you restrict your shoulder movement, you lose the ability to get into the next power position, which is the racket drop. So this is, really why you want to avoid this open racket face position. I know a lot of you watching right now are striving to get more power on your serve. You may be really struggling to really feel that effortless power. So if you are, I just want to say that we've just created a free PDF document on the 2 key serve power moves. So if you want free access to that document, just go beneath the video and you'll find the link for that PDF. Let me show you now exactly how it should look when you perform this correctly, and we'll dive into the 3 drills which will help you master this movement over your head.
Now let's dive into how it should look when you perform it correctly with the closed racket face position. First thing you're going to see is in my half serve position, the palm and strings are already pointing slightly down to the ground. Okay, and now what I do from here, I bend my elbow, but nothing is going to change with my wrist structure of the angle of my racket face. I'm going to keep everything intact and simply bend the elbow to get the racket moving over my head. And you see this movement now. I bend the elbow and see that nothing is really changing with my wrist. The racket face remains closed. And now, at this point, you can see it's almost like the racket face is forming a side of a pitch roof over my head. The palm and strings are still relatively closed. And now it remains so as the racket starts to go down and away from my body. And you see that right now. See how it remains closed as I go down. And this is one of the most important areas, because so many players at this point, when they lose sight of the racket, that's when the palm and strings start to open up. So it's vitally important that you feel that it's closed throughout the whole loop, down and away from the body, as you can see with my serve right there. Okay, and that's exactly how it should look when you perform it correctly.
Now that we have a good understanding as to how it looks when you do it incorrectly and why this happens, but also now how it looks when you do it correctly, we can now dive into the 3 simple drills to help you fix it. Drill number 1 is going to be what we call the wrong side drill. Now, I first learned this from OTI Director of Coaching Gregg, okay, and it's a fantastic drill because it forces you into a closed position as you go over your head. Let me just show you a couple, what it should look like, and then we'll explain a little bit more. So looking from the back angle, I'm going to start in the half serve position, and all I'm going to do is go up and hit the ball with the wrong side of the strings. So it looks something like this. You can see from the back angle. I go up and I just tap the ball, just like that. Okay? And as you can see, it looks very weird. I'm not getting much power on the ball either because I'm just tapping it. Now, the reason though this is so effective, your subconscious, if you've been doing this for, some of you may have been doing this for over 10 years or 20 years, whatever it may be, your subconscious is so used to this, opening the palm and strings up. So what we got to do, we got to exaggerate in the other direction. And we got to feel that you're really exaggerating keeping it closed. And this wrong side drill is a fantastic way to do that. Okay, so I'll just do a couple more and I'll show you how I do it. So half serve, wrong side. Ball toss it a little bit too far to the left there. Go up and tap. Okay, very strange, very weird. Now what we're going to do though, we're going to try to trick your brain. So after you've done maybe a bucket of balls like that where you've done it with the wrong side, what we can then do is work with a rotation where you do 2 with the wrong side of the racket, and then on the 3rd rotation you actually hit the ball. But this is the key. When you go and you now hit the ball, you have to trick your brain. And what I mean by that is you feel that you're going with the wrong side of the racket throughout the whole swing, but then at the last second you square off and you make contact with the ball with the right side. Okay? And be aware, this is going to feel very weird, and you may also spray the balls everywhere. Now, providing you don't knock somebody out on the other court, you're fine. It don't really matter where this ball goes. Okay, I'll show you what it looks like now. So I'm going to try to trick my brain. Wrong side, right side. Wrong side, right side. Okay, and even to me that feels very, very weird. Okay, and then what you do, you commit yourself to doing 2 with the wrong side, 1 with the right side, and just go through that progression level. And I can't emphasize enough on keeping that discipline to going through. Because I know for myself, I know, when I was working on my serve, I know how easy it is to get bored of doing this and just think, I'm just going to hit balls and try to do it when I'm hitting. But trust me, if you fall into that habit, all you're going to do is reinforce the bad muscle memory. I've yet to see a player that's able to do that, just hit ball after ball and then make these technical changes. You need to break it down, just like what I showed you right here. And that sums it up for drill number 1. Moving on to drill number 2, and this is what we call muscle activation. Now, this is a training method that's not often used at all in the tennis industry. Florian Mayer developed this training method, and it's a fantastic way to give you the feeling of, again, activating those muscles which are not currently being used to keep it closed. Okay, so to do this, you don't even need a racket. It's very simple. You can do this at home. Put your racket down. You also don't need a ball for now. And what we've got to first understand is you're used to doing this, okay, opening the palm, just like that. So what we now got to do is I like to clench my fingers up here underneath like that. So it's almost like I'm making a fist, just like this. And what I'm going to do, I'm now going to use my non-dominant hand and I'm going to try to push my palm open. So you're actually trying to push it open like this to this open racket face. But as you're pushing, you're going to bring the hand down against that pressure. So you're activating the muscles against that force which you're trying to open it up. And you'll hold for 3 seconds and stop. So it looks like this. I push down, 1, 2, 3, release. And I do the same again. 1, 2, 3, release. And again, 1, 2, 3, release. Then what you can do, we often do this with players, so it's easier to do this, but you can try it. Essentially that now you try to move the arm a little bit whilst pushing down. So you move as you start to bend. You bend, keeping it closed. Bend, keeping it closed. And then what you can do is you push down, remember, against that pressure. You bend and then swing. Bend, swing. And you just start to give the feeling of keeping that closed, forcing it down. Bend, swing. After you've done that a couple of times, you then pick up your racket and do some shadow swings where you now try to feel that you have that pressure. You have somebody trying to push the racket face open and you're pushing down against it, preventing it. And you've got to feel that muscle activation throughout the whole swing. Because I've noticed this with a lot of players, they only feel it until they lose sight of the racket. As soon as they lose sight of the racket as it goes over the head, then the subconscious kicks in and then it breaks down again. So try to feel that you're keeping it closed throughout the whole service action. So it looks something like this. From the half serve position, I try to feel I'm pushing down against that pressure and going through. Push down, down, through. Now also I know I've heard this from a lot of players. When they are doing it, they say, yeah, but what if I hit myself with the frame here with my head, with the frame of the racket? And I like to say usually good, that's a good mistake, but obviously then we don't want to knock ourselves out. So, just trust it. It's very, very rare that you actually are going to hit yourself. Your subconscious is very clever. It's not just going to magically bring the racket straight into your head. But that is actually a good feeling to have though, that you keep it closed like that it feels like it's going to hit your head. Okay, that will help you keep that racket face closed. But that's a great way, the muscle activation. And then what you can do is alternate. You do maybe 2 where you activate the muscles, and then you can try and hit a ball or 2 where you again feel the same feeling of trying to keep that racket face closed. So keep it closed as you go through, and then you activate the muscles again. Now that brings us on to drill number 3, and this drill is probably going to be the weirdest drill you'll see to help you fix the open racket face. Some of you may have already seen it. I came up with this drill probably 6-7 years ago, and to do this drill you just need a water bottle. Okay, now I know a lot of you watching this may be asking, can you really fix your serve with a water bottle? And the answer is yes. If you do this drill enough and you use it effectively, the water bottle can definitely help you. Now, what I've done with the water bottle, I've filled it up just a quarter full, okay? So it's not all the way full, it just had a quarter in it. And I've also got colored water here, okay? This helps you see it a lot easier. But you don't need colored water, you can just have any water or any liquid in here, okay? And then what you're gonna do, you're gonna set up in the half serve position, like this. And what I'm now doing, I'm gripping the top of the water bottle, just like that. Now, from this point, my objective is to keep the water in the bottom of the bottle as I go through my swing. So it looks something like this. I bend the elbow and I keep the water in the bottom of the bottle. Bend, just like that, okay? And you can see that in order to have the water in the bottom of the bottle, I have to keep this palm closed. If I do the opposite and I do this and the palm opens, where's the water now gone? It's gone to the top of the bottle. And if you were feeling really brave, or if you're just in a very hot country and you want to cool yourself down, you could just take the cap off. And if you do it incorrectly, you're going to know about it because the water is going to run down everywhere. Okay, so using a simple water bottle is so easy, but yet so effective. And you can do this anyway. If you're traveling, or if you just got 5 minutes off from work, you have water, just take the water bottle and just do this a few times, feeling it closed. And then what you can do to increase the difficulty, you take the racket back in your hand, and now you really try to envision that you're holding that water bottle again. And you can even do this with your eyes closed in the beginning. And you just feel that you're trying to keep the water in the bottom of the bottle as you go through the swing. I'm really trying to feel that here as I go right to left. Just like that. And then you can pick up the bottle again, do a few more. Once that starts to feel comfortable, you can use what we call a dummy ball toss, okay? And a dummy ball toss basically means you're gonna toss the ball up, but you're not gonna hit it, okay? You're just now gonna mimic the ball toss, and your objective is to not let the subconscious kick in and to execute the old technique. What you're gonna do is just shadow swing the new technique. So it looks something like this. Half serve position, toss, and go. You can see I'm not hitting the ball, I'm just focusing on that closed position. Then again, I can pick up the water bottle, do a few more. Once that feels good, then I can actually start to hit the ball. But again, isolate everything. Come inside the court, start in the half serve position, and just go nice and slow in the beginning. If I get the ball in the right place, just like that. So I'm not trying to kill the ball, I'm just building this up in a step-by-step manner.
Now, once Sean was able to consistently and correctly execute coming up on edge and delaying the pronation, we then got to work on her right to left. Now, the right to left is where the racket tip is pointing somewhere to the right, where you bend from the elbow and the racket's going to move from the right side of your body over the head towards the left, and it's moving right to left diagonally forward over here. Now, as you do that, you want the palm of the hand and the string face to angle slightly downward, because that's going to help take stress off the shoulder and help you to really get into that optimal racket drop position. So let's take a look at some of the drills which she did. Now, this drill comes from Vic Braden, and here you want to take a ball and you want to hold the ball like this where your thumb is down, your fingers are on top, where the ball sign is facing away from you. So if I look like this, I can see the ball sign. So you want to get into this position here where your shoulders and your elbows are aligned. You have this nice diagonal here, all right? Now you want the ball sign pointing down. I like to have the left arm up as well. Now from here, you're going to bend from the elbow, isolate this, where you keep the elbow in this position right here. And you're going to bend in a way where the hand is going to move towards you. It's going to move between the ear and the elbow where it moves over the bicep. Now as you do that, you should be able to look back and see the ball sign. So let me do that again. So you've got this nice shoulder-elbow alignment. Try to pretend that the elbow is resting on a post. You're going to bend from the elbow. The hand will come towards you and move between your ear and your elbow where the palm of the hand moves over the bicep. And you can see that ball sign. To show you from a different perspective, I'm going to bend it this way. See how the hand appears to be coming forward and towards me. Just kind of show you from this perspective as well. You can see the ball sign. We turn here, right there. That's a very important drill to help you to understand the correct wrist position, but also how you specifically bend from the elbow. All right, so once we went through that drill, we then added the racket. Now, very important, We want to choke up in the racket first. That's going to give you better awareness of where the racket tip is and make it much easier to execute this correctly. Now, Sean did have to make a grip change, which can be very difficult, but we went from more that grip 3 to at least a 2.5. Okay, that's the ridge between grips 2 and 3. That's an intermediary change where eventually you move it all the way to 2, or you could immediately go all the way to 2. That just depends from player to player. But you want to choke up on the racket. So we had to set up like this with this alignment, and then we had to mimic what you did with the ball, but now with the racket in hand. Bend from the elbow. See how the hand comes towards you, and it moves between the ear and the elbow, where the palm is pointing slightly down over the bicep. So we had to do this over and over, and then made sure she allowed the racket to continue to drop behind her back. Right? So if you relax the arm, the racket can drop this way. So you can progress it. So again, into this position here, notice how the elbow is going to bend, the hand will actually come towards me this way. So the racket's moving from right to left. So we had to do multiple shadow swings like that. And then once you got the feel for it, then we added the pronation to the shadow swing. So started like this, bending from the elbow, coming up on edge, and then pronating. Okay, I had to do that over and over again. Okay, then we added the ball to that. And that's where you want to stand inside the court. You take the outcome out of the equation. You want to start in what we call that half serve position, just like this. So you can just isolate this move right here. Okay. The key is you're going to toss the ball first. Once you release the ball, you will then bend from the elbow. That allows you to really focus on that hitting arm. So we had to then toss the ball from the half serve, just serving straight ahead, not worry too much about the outcome. And do it over and over. I do find that some players struggle with that. You can even start in what I call the salute position, where the racket's a little bit further along, but it hasn't quite crossed your head. This can also help you to isolate those key components of the swing. Now, a common problem we see when players are working on their serve and working on the right to left is they struggle to get into the key power position we call the racket drop, and that's where the racket tip points down and aligns with the right side of the body. You also notice how the elbow is up in this position and the forearm is almost parallel to the ground. Now, you've got to be very careful getting that position, because if you lack mobility in the shoulder, you may end up injuring yourself. So be very careful, never force that position. But a good drill for that, and we use this with Sean, is to start in the half serve position and toss the ball up and complete what we call the elbow the ball drill. Yeah, then bring it over your head. Toss. Yeah. And when you're doing that, the elbow is going to come around and up. When you lead with the elbow, the ball's going to land right here. That's going to help to get into that key racket drop position. So you can complete that over and over. And then when you film it, you actually see, you get to the point that if you can get the elbow up and into the racket drop position where the ball is still high enough to reach up and hit it, it'll indicate to you that there's a sufficient time so you can think of elbowing the ball and then simply reaching up to contact.
Alright, so you've made it to the end of this long video, and that shows me that you're committed to transforming your serve. Of course, at this point you're probably wondering what happens after the right to left power move. OTI instructor James Ludlow put together an in-depth video explaining the science behind powerful serves and, most importantly, the 3 most important serve power moves. So if you want to take that next step, go ahead and click the link inside this video right now and check out this exceptional video by James Ludlow.